Every now and then, a concept machine comes along that rewrites the limits of imagination. It is not built to sell or compete, but to provoke thought. It stands where heritage meets possibility, where mechanical artistry begins to merge with digital intuition. For enthusiasts, it sparks a mix of awe and disbelief. For engineers, it sets a new bar to chase. This is one of those moments when a vision of the road ahead demands a second look. The story ahead is not about nostalgia, it is about how design, technology, and ambition can collide to create something entirely new. If you have ever looked at a machine and felt your definition of a motorcycle shift, you already understand why this one matters. Stay tuned, and before we dive in, remember to like, subscribe, and comment on which future concept you want covered next. The Honda CB4 Interceptor concept arrived without warning, yet within moments of its debut it changed the tone of every conversation about the future of café racers. In an industry that often relies on heritage to sell dreams, Honda did something few expected. It used the framework of a classic silhouette to project a message about what motorcycling could become. The CB4 Interceptor concept was first revealed at the EICMA show in Milan, a stage known for dramatic unveilings, but this machine was different. It stood in matte carbon black, minimalist and severe, its turbine-like front wheel drawing curious eyes while its glowing interface hinted at something unseen. The crowd realized this was no production prototype, it was a statement. Honda had already introduced a concept known as the CB4 earlier, but the Interceptor version evolved it in every sense. The café racer language remained, with its crouched stance and exposed frame, but the details spoke a new dialect. Every surface looked as if sculpted by wind, the design more aerospace than automotive. The headlight morphed into a power-generating turbine that converted airflow into electrical energy, feeding a digital dashboard and communication system. It was equal parts sculpture and laboratory experiment, each curve suggesting a world where efficiency and emotion coexist. To understand why Honda invested in something so radical, we have to consider the period leading up to it. The motorcycle market in the mid-2010s was split between two extremes. At one end, nostalgia-driven models appealing to aging riders. At the other, technology-heavy sport bikes aimed at pure performance. The CB4 Interceptor concept sought to bridge that gap, to propose that style and innovation could coexist without compromise. It questioned whether the café racer could evolve beyond fashion, becoming instead a platform for intelligent design. That proposition carried risk, especially for a company with a reputation for pragmatism. Yet that very restraint made the move all the more daring. The CB4 Interceptor concept's engine was based on a familiar inline-4 configuration, likely derived from Honda's production units, but the presentation stripped away any sense of routine. Honda's designers in Rome, under the company's European R&D branch, described their goal as blending emotion and performance. The machine appeared less as a product and more as an artifact from a future timeline where human craftsmanship and machine logic merged seamlessly. The fairing was replaced by planes of carbon and aluminum, joined by minimal fasteners, each element carried purpose. Nothing seemed ornamental, yet everything contributed to the aesthetic. Viewed from the side, the CB4 Interceptor concept balanced aggression and calm. Its proportions evoked speed even at rest. The stretched tank and rear cowl formed a perfect diagonal thrust, while the front turbine lens provided visual counterweight. The seat seemed almost suspended, an architectural choice emphasizing lightness. Even the tires appeared more integrated than attached, like part of a unified ecosystem. This was not simply a café racer reborn, it was a meditation on the idea of motion itself. Honda's decision to use the term Interceptor carried meaning too. It was a callback to the company's storied VFR lineage, where technology and long-distance performance had long coexisted. By reusing that name, Honda drew a line between its heritage of innovation and its next generation of design language. The CB4 Interceptor concept looked nothing like the old VFRs, but it shared their core philosophy: precision without pretense. The concept made a subtle but powerful argument that performance does not have to shout, it can whisper through design. The materials chosen reinforced this theme. Carbon fiber panels wrapped around a lightweight frame, brushed aluminum accents replaced chrome, and the finish was deliberately muted. There was no glossy paint, no excessive branding, just a stealth presence. This restraint made every line more dramatic, every reflection more deliberate. The headlight turbine assembly became the most talked about feature, not because it was flashy, but because it suggested self-sufficiency. A motorcycle that could generate its own power for onboard systems symbolized independence. It hinted at a step toward sustainability without compromising thrill. By the time the show lights dimmed, the CB4 Interceptor concept had already divided opinions. Purists saw it as a betrayal of the Café racer's minimalist purity. Futurists hailed it as proof that design could evolve beyond nostalgia. Yet everyone agreed on one thing: it looked stunning. The contrast of classic ergonomics with near-cybernetic details made it a conversation piece. Whether admired or criticized, it could not be ignored. This first impression mattered, because it proved Honda was willing to experiment again. For years, the brand's reliability and refinement had earned respect but rarely excitement. The CB4 Interceptor concept reintroduced a sense of boldness. It reminded enthusiasts that Honda's legacy was not just about mass production, it was about rethinking performance through engineering imagination. Each concept the company reveals at EICMA is part of a broader narrative. This one, however, struck a deeper chord. It was an emotional reset, signaling that the company still had the nerve to surprise. From an engineering standpoint, the CB4 Interceptor concept's biggest achievement was not the turbine or the materials, but the coherence of its design. Everything served a purpose, from the integrated digital display to the aerodynamic surfaces that reduced drag and directed airflow efficiently. Even small choices, like the sharp tail section and sculpted belly pan, reflected functional thought. The result was a design that looked inevitable, as if it could not have been shaped any other way. The real genius of the CB4 Interceptor concept lies in how it navigated contradictions. It was futuristic yet familiar, luxurious yet raw, digital yet analog. Honda's design team captured the spirit of speed without relying on excess. Instead of trying to dominate the viewer, the machine invited curiosity. It challenged assumptions about what a Café racer could be in an age of electrification and connectivity. If Café racers were once born from rebellion, the CB4 Interceptor concept represented a new kind of defiance: the refusal to stagnate. Public reaction after EICMA confirmed its success as a design exercise. Motorcycle forums buzzed with speculation about production possibilities. Some hoped for a limited run, others dismissed it as too radical. Yet Honda remained quiet, letting the concept speak for itself. That silence added to its mystique, making it less a product and more a philosophy in motion. For Honda, that was the real win. The CB4 Interceptor concept also reflected a shift in how concept bikes are used. Traditionally, they exist to preview features or styles destined for production. Here, the purpose was more abstract: to explore identity. Honda, like many manufacturers, faced a generational challenge. Younger riders demanded technology and sustainability. Older riders sought nostalgia and simplicity. The CB4 Interceptor concept tried to reconcile both desires in one elegant gesture. It did not lecture or pander, it simply presented a vision that spoke to both hearts and minds. In doing so, it became a mirror for the entire motorcycle industry. Inside Honda's design ecosystem, the CB4 Interceptor concept did not emerge in isolation, it was the product of an evolving philosophy about how machines communicate emotion. The Honda CB4 Interceptor concept represented a deliberate pivot away from nostalgia-driven styling toward what the company called neo-sports Café design language. This approach valued proportion, simplicity, and purpose over decoration. Designers in Honda's Rome-based R&D center worked under the belief that the next generation of riders would seek clarity and intelligence in their machines rather than ornamentation. Their guiding question was not how to make motorcycles prettier, but how to make them speak more clearly. To appreciate what Honda achieved with the CB4 Interceptor concept, we must step into the mindset of its creators. European design teams within Honda often operate as the experimental edge of the brand. Freed from the constraints of immediate production cycles, they explore new forms and ideas that later filter into mainstream products. In this context, the CB4 Interceptor concept was not an indulgence. It was a probe into the psychological and aesthetic future of motorcycling. Its role was to test whether riders could emotionally connect with a machine that looked like it belonged in a digital ecosystem. The turbine headlight, for instance, was symbolic. It suggested perpetual energy, self-sufficiency, and intelligence. Even though it functioned as a generator, it carried deeper meaning, a motorcycle aware of its environment, feeding itself as it moved through space. Beneath that symbolism lay serious technical exploration. The CB4 Interceptor concept's energy recovery system was more than a showpiece. It was a hint at how motorcycles might integrate auxiliary power generation for connected systems, lighting, or onboard diagnostics. This kind of innovation usually emerges in automotive electric concepts, yet here it appeared in a gas-powered prototype. Honda used this hybridization of ideas to make a point. Progress does not always require abandoning the familiar engine. Instead, it can begin with smarter integration of existing technologies. The CB4 Interceptor concept, therefore, became a conversation between tradition and transformation. That conversation extended to materials and ergonomics. The CB4 Interceptor concept's designers understood that riders crave tactile feedback. Thus, even as digital displays replaced analog gauges, the surfaces riders touched remained mechanical and authentic. The brushed aluminum fuel tank, the exposed bolts, the visible wiring, all were intentional reminders that this was still a machine to be felt, not just programmed. It conveyed the message that technology should enhance emotion, not replace it. Internally, Honda was in the midst of redefining its image. The company had long been synonymous with reliability and efficiency, but critics argued that these strengths came at the expense of passion. The CB4 Interceptor concept became a counterargument. It reminded the world that Honda's core DNA includes risk-taking. Historically, Honda built its reputation on bold engineering leaps, from the first DOHC inline fours to groundbreaking touring and racing machines. The CB4 Interceptor concept reconnected that spirit to the modern era, wrapping advanced thinking in an emotionally charged shell. Observers at EICMA noted that while many concept bikes on display felt theatrical or excessive, the CB4 Interceptor concept had restraint. Its beauty came from discipline, not drama. The lines were clean, the proportions balanced, the lighting subtle yet deliberate. This quiet confidence made it stand out amid louder, more flamboyant prototypes. Honda's design team had achieved something rare, a futuristic motorcycle that did not rely on gimmicks to seem advanced. It simply was. Behind the scenes, the CB4 Interceptor concept also reflected the growing role of digital tools in motorcycle design. Three-dimensional modeling, virtual wind tunnels, and parametric surfaces allowed designers to sculpt complex geometries that would have been impossible a decade earlier. Yet the machine still felt analog, because human judgment guided every curve. This balance between digital precision and handcrafted sensibility became a hallmark of Honda's modern aesthetic. The CB4 Interceptor concept was a physical embodiment of that balance. In interviews after the show, Honda's design leads hinted that the CB4 Interceptor concept was part of a long-term exploration into what they called emotional efficiency. The idea was that form and function should align so completely that the result feels inevitable, reducing cognitive noise. When a rider looks at a motorcycle and instantly understands its intent, emotional efficiency has been achieved. The CB4 Interceptor concept was designed to create that instant recognition, sleek yet purposeful, minimal yet expressive. This design language later trickled into production in subtle ways. The CB1000R, launched not long after, bore the same balance of sculptural tension and mechanical honesty. While the CB4 Interceptor concept remained a one-off, Its influence was visible in the clean lines, reduced clutter, and confident stance of subsequent Honda models. It served as a blueprint for how the brand could modernize without alienating its loyal base. The CB4 Interceptor concept also marked a philosophical return to the idea that motorcycles should evoke imagination, not just performance metrics. For decades, the motorcycle industry had competed largely on power, speed, and electronics. Yet the CB4 Interceptor concept reminded everyone that visual storytelling still matters. Its design invited questions rather than answering them outright. It was a conversation starter, and that curiosity proved more enduring than any horsepower figure. Honda's decision to showcase the CB4 Interceptor concept at an international event was strategic. Europe has long been a market that values design experimentation, and Milan, in particular, is the spiritual home of industrial design. By unveiling the concept there, Honda sent a message to both consumers and rivals. Innovation was not confined to the lab, it was alive in the showroom. This approach mirrored how premium design houses introduce concepts in fashion or architecture, not to sell immediately, but to shape perception. What is fascinating about the CB4 Interceptor concept is how it embodies a universal design truth. The more specific a vision becomes, the more universal its appeal can be. By committing fully to its futuristic identity, Honda made the concept resonate even with those who preferred retro machines. It triggered imagination precisely because it refused to compromise. Every detail reinforced a consistent narrative of forward motion. Technically, the CB4 Interceptor concept may not have introduced groundbreaking performance numbers, but concept vehicles rarely do. Their power lies in shaping future agendas. Within Honda, the lessons learned from building and presenting this motorcycle influenced how teams approached subsequent projects. They recognized that even small changes in surface language or user interface could signal larger shifts in brand perception. The CB4 Interceptor concept became a teaching tool as much as a showpiece. As we trace its impact, it becomes clear that the CB4 Interceptor concept achieved something most concept vehicles fail to do. It transcended the event where it debuted. When the Honda CB4 Interceptor concept faded from the spotlight, its echoes began to surface across Honda's design and product strategy. The Honda CB4 Interceptor concept had fulfilled its purpose as a catalyst. It was never about sales, but about shifting perception. Over the next several years, Honda's production motorcycles started to reveal how deeply that shift had penetrated. Subtle visual cues, new material finishes, and a revived confidence in minimalist design all traced their lineage back to that carbon-clad vision from Milan. The Neo Sports Café lineup became the most direct beneficiary. Models like the CB1000R and CB650 are carried forward the Interceptor's mix of sculptural aggression and clean simplicity. Gone were the excessive graphics and layered plastics of earlier designs. In their place stood purposeful geometry, tight integration, and exposed structure. The CB4 Interceptor concept had taught Honda that emotion could emerge from restraint. Every line on these bikes seemed borrowed from the concept's visual vocabulary: compact massing, truncated tails, and lighting that felt engineered rather than ornamental. Even marketing materials began to use phrases about honesty and performance purity, signaling a brand-wide embrace of the Interceptor's ethos. Beyond aesthetics, the CB4 Interceptor concept left traces in how Honda approached technology. The turbine headlight, while not reproduced literally, foreshadowed the company's experiments with energy recapture and adaptive electronics. Honda's engineers began to study how small-scale energy harvesting could extend battery life for auxiliary systems. Meanwhile, digital interface designs became simpler, echoing the concept's minimal dashboard. The goal was to reduce distraction and strengthen the connection between rider and machine. The CB4 Interceptor concept had made that connection emotional. Production models now made it practical. In industry discussions, the CB4 Interceptor concept also marked a turning point in how concept bikes were interpreted. It demonstrated that conceptual design could serve as cultural commentary. Where earlier prototypes focused on shock value, the CB4 Interceptor concept engaged audiences through coherence. It looked futuristic not because it tried to predict gadgets, but because it distilled timeless principles. Designers across the industry began referencing it as proof that meaningful progress often comes from refining, not reinventing. This quiet revolution influenced how other manufacturers unveiled their own prototypes in the years that followed, with a noticeable return to purity and purpose. Inside Honda, design teams reportedly cited the CB4 Interceptor concept as a morale booster. It reminded engineers and stylists alike that the company still had the creative edge to inspire conversation. That pride carried into projects beyond motorcycling, from automotive styling cues to branding campaigns focused on innovation and emotion. The ripple effect was subtle but real. The concept recentered Honda's narrative around imagination. From a consumer standpoint, the CB4 Interceptor concept had another unintended effect. It reawakened public curiosity about concept motorcycles as legitimate works of design rather than marketing stunts. In online communities and design forums, enthusiasts began treating such prototypes as art installations that reflected social and technological trends. The CB4 Interceptor concept occupied that rare space where mechanical design crossed into cultural relevance. It sparked debates about sustainability, digital integration, and the meaning of individuality in a connected world. Even years later, photos of it continue to circulate whenever conversations arise about the future of motorcycling aesthetics. Its timing was significant too. The CB4 Interceptor concept arrived during a period when the motorcycle industry was searching for identity. Global sales were plateauing, younger riders were hesitant to enter the market. In that environment, the CB4 Interceptor concept became a symbol of renewal. It showed that motorcycles could remain aspirational even in a digital age dominated by convenience and automation. Its message was simple but powerful: emotional connection still matters. For Honda's leadership, that message translated into strategy. The company began to focus on making its modern machines feel approachable yet advanced. The CB4 Interceptor concept's mix of traditional form and futuristic functions served as a blueprint. Every new design would aim for clarity and engagement, rather than spectacle. That decision helped Honda strengthen its image as a brand that could evolve gracefully, neither chasing trends nor clinging to the past. Culturally, the CB4 Interceptor concept also bridged a generational divide. Older enthusiasts admired its mechanical authenticity, younger audiences appreciated its technological potential. It united two groups that often see design differently. In doing so, it accomplished something larger than brand promotion. It redefined how motorcyclists discuss progress. It became acceptable to celebrate innovation without dismissing heritage. This balance is now visible in Honda's lineup, where modern machines pay subtle homage to their ancestors without replicating them. The impact of the CB4 Interceptor concept can even be measured in language. When motorcycle journalists describe new designs as futuristic yet grounded, they often invoke the same vocabulary that surrounded the Interceptor. Words like purity, precision, and evolution replaced louder terms like aggression or dominance. The tone of motorcycle storytelling changed, emphasizing intelligence over excess. That linguistic shift reflects how deeply one concept can influence collective imagination. In retrospect, the CB4 Interceptor concept achieved something rare for a one-off display piece. It proved that a design can have lasting influence without being mass-produced. It became a North Star for Honda's identity in the 2020s, reminding the company and its audience that the future of performance lies in harmony, not conflict. Instead of rejecting the past, it integrated it. Instead of overwhelming technology, it humanized it. On a symbolic level, the CB4 Interceptor concept also spoke to a broader truth about design progress. Innovation does not always look like disruption, sometimes it looks like refinement. The Interceptor concept refined the Café racer's language until only essence remained. The result was not a replacement, but a redefinition. That redefinition continues to inspire custom builders, industrial designers, and digital artists who see in it a timeless balance between art and logic. Looking at Honda's trajectory since then, the spirit of the CB4 Interceptor concept persists even as the industry turns toward electrification. Future prototypes now reference modular batteries, lightweight composites, and smart connectivity, yet many retain the Interceptor's clean geometry and expressive restraint. The concept's DNA survives because it articulated a universal design truth: simplicity and intelligence will always outlast novelty. As we close segment 3, it becomes clear that the Honda CB4 Interceptor concept was more than a motorcycle. It was a statement of identity, a symbol of creative courage, and a quiet challenge to every designer who would follow. The Honda CB4 Interceptor concept stands today as one of those rare design moments that outlives its debut. From the first time it appeared under the lights in Milan, the Honda CB4 Interceptor concept redefined how a manufacturer could communicate ambition without uttering a single marketing slogan. It was not about shock value or nostalgia, it was about conviction. Every inch of that carbon black body, every curve of its turbine front, every whisper of restrained power spoke of a company rediscovering its creative pulse. Over time, the CB4 Interceptor concept became a measuring stick for what authentic innovation should look like. It proved that imagination could coexist with practicality, and that modern design could still evoke the emotional spark that first made riders fall in love with machines. Honda used the concept to signal a shift toward intelligent design, where beauty and purpose are inseparable. That influence still threads through its modern lineup, visible in how the brand now balances technology with human touch. For enthusiasts, the CB4 Interceptor concept remains more than an exhibit. It is a reminder of why design matters. It tells us that progress is not about abandoning the familiar but about revealing its hidden potential. In the Interceptor's restrained power and calculated simplicity, Honda reminded everyone that the essence of motorcycling is emotional connection, an idea that no algorithm can replicate. As we close, the legacy of the Honda CB4 Interceptor concept feels less like a finished chapter and more like an open invitation. It invites engineers to keep imagining, riders to keep questioning, and designers to keep refining the balance between man and machine. The Interceptor's silent message endures: the future belongs to those who dare to look at tradition and see possibility instead of limits. And if this concept taught the industry anything, it is that the most powerful revolutions begin not with volume, but with vision.